Hi, I'm Janae Strand. I'm a curator at the Brooklyn Museum.
Hi, I'm Marcus Brutus. I'm an artist.
Marcus, can you tell us about yourself, who you are, what you do, and why specifically you chose the medium of painting?
So I was born in 1991, grew up in Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland, which is situated right outside of Washington, D.C. And I actually discovered painting pretty late. And it became sort of a space where I can have all of my interests coexist, freely. And I've always had a vested interest in history, as well as kind of just like the Black experience here in America and throughout the world, ideas like Pan-Africanism.
Can you tell us how you choose your subjects and what significance your subjects have to you and to the painting that you create?
Figures that exist in my work, for the most part, are imagined and found images that I kind of assemble together to create one cohesive image. But there are instances, like for instance, when painting the cover, where there is a particular story or narrative or history that I'm drawn to that maybe is sort of underrepresented, and I kind of think of that like, this is something that I'd like to create a painting, a work around.
Specifically in the cover, this subject is really active and she's actively engaging in a lunge. Can you tell us more about what movement means to your practice and to how you create your work?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be able to capture a moment that feels as if it brings you to that place in time when that sort of image was created or taken. So movement or a subject that's kind of not looking directly straight at the viewer, or even if they are, they seem a bit disengaged. That kind of, to me, reflects, reality, sort of the everyday experience. It's not kind of like these, over stylized portraits. I've always kind of viewed that as sort of like an augmented representation of sort of everyday life, and this is more so a real and honest sort of, I try to approach things in a real and honest manner.
I feel as though your images are almost as if you've taken a picture of someone in the midst of them doing something, whether they're about to do it or have just recently done. And I think, as you mentioned, the honesty of photographing an image, but photographing a subject, but also the honesty of capturing that within a painting is so striking. What does this cover mean to you in terms of representing 100 years of Wimbledon? What does it represent for the legacy of your work, but also the legacy of this incredible history in the sport?
So yeah, when I was approached to, create this painting, I thought back to sort of, there's a richness in the Wimbledon history. And a story that popped up to me is about Althea. She had been one of the first African-American to win the Wimbledon in the 50s. That to me was striking because because Wimbledon till this day still holds this prestigious space and place within, society, and also just the things that happen within society affects, it blends in and bleeds into sport. And for her to achieve something like that in that particular time, I was really drawn to that story and was like, I definitely would like to depict that and kind of focus on that, which I think many people aren't really aware of that achievement.
And I want to talk about your experience with the sport. What was your entry into tennis, and now what is your relationship with the sport?
Well, my entry to the sport was actually pretty young. I briefly took tennis lessons. They're all, I did really poorly in that. I was like scraping the racket on the ground. But from a visual standpoint and a historical standpoint, I've always been drawn to it. There's something about it that kind of maintains sort of this classic appeal. Whilst there's this great tradition, there are also individuals that are, especially now, that are kind of transcending that.
Within representing her in your cover, you chose a very powerful and almost visceral pose. Can you speak to why that pose and what is the significance of that?
From the brief sort of biographies that I read on her, she was sort of an imposing figure, but also graceful at the same time. And so that in itself, in terms of a description or attribute given to a black black woman athlete, it has many sort of interpretations. The reason depicting Althea in that manner was essentially to celebrate her and to celebrate her great achievement and what she has added to and brought to the legacy of Wimbledon. You know, while she's in Europe winning and being celebrated, you know, the things that were happening back in America at that same time would kind of, you know, adds this sort of great juxtaposition. My favorite part of creating the cover was actually looking through all of Althea's archived images that I've found. How to make it clear that this is Wimbledon. So in terms of the colors of center court, the grass courts, things like that.